I'm Keegan York, a therapist, philosopher, and meaning maker. And today I'm going to show you the 6 key graphs to who you spend your time with and why it's important to digest and understand how we spend our time so that you can best think through and plan out your life to make the most of that time. One question I've reflected on the most over the past 5 years has been this: how should I spend this precious gift called time? And maybe it was the realization of humanity's fragility over those years that's really shaped why it's been on the forefront of my mind. I've gone from feeling like time was always going to be there to now feeling like time is something limited and scarce and really something I wish I could bend and change. You can't work or buy more of it. That aspect of Andrew Nichols' movie In Time, made in 2011, wouldn't be so bad. One of the great philosophers of our day, Justin Bieber, in his song Ghost, writes, "Youngblood thinks there's always tomorrow." I've found that to be so true. When you're young, you're not always thinking about tomorrow. When you're young, you're not always thinking about the reality of death or the reality of time or the reality that you can't get back what you just lived. To me, time is now this unforgiving and uncontrollable beast. It moves forward without caring about anyone or anything. And thinking back, maybe it was the birth of my children that spurned this sort of thinking about time. Or maybe it was the death of my 28-year-old older brother back in 2022. Either way, the beginning and the end of life has caused me to reflect on how to actually live that life well. And I expect I'm not alone in that. You are probably thinking about time as well. I don't want you to watch this as a morbid lesson so that you go back and feel horrible about your existence, but rather I hope you find something of gain to better understand and appreciate this gift that we have called time. Watching this video could be both inspiring and also depressing at times, and that's okay. Those two things can sit and live at the same time. I'll be showing different graphs on the screen, and I really hope that you take time to digest and maybe pause the video and really think about each graph. And as always, I hope that no matter what I say, that you hear it and you receive it, and that even if it just changes you or one other person, that is amazing for me. The first graph we're going to talk about is who we spend our time with. About a year ago, I came across the American Use Time Survey done by Our World in Data, and it breaks down who we spend our time with over the course of our lives. I had seen this combined data shared across social media, whether that was X or Instagram before, and even in some newsletters. But I wanted to see if there were any broken down graphs of each section. That way we could really digest it and dive deeper into each area of your life. And I knew that once I found the deconstructed graphs, that I couldn't just skip over it or glaze over it, but I had to sit and actually think with it. So here are the 6 graphs and key takeaways, as well as possible responses to each section, so that you can get an understanding for how you can maybe move forward with the new information. The first one we're going to talk with is time spent with family. As you might have guessed, the time spent with our family, parents, and siblings peaks in our childhood, and right around 20 years old begins to decline rather rapidly. And I want to note that this is your nuclear family that you were born into, not the family that you may have right now that you've created or married into, and so on. But around the age of 18, 20, you typically leave the home and start your own life, whether you go to college or start to live on your own and make a living wage. And when you do that, you don't really think about who you're leaving behind or how much time you actually have left with those people. So, some key takeaways from this graph would be: time with family is limited, especially in the years when we are most cognizant. When you're a child, you're not always cognizant or aware of all the intricacies of life. Children are amazing at living in the present, but they don't always think about what could happen in the future, what has happened in the past. So when you're actually cognizant and mature, this graph shrinks even smaller to how much time you have with your family. The second key takeaway is time spent with parents declines sharply after age 20. Let's say your parents are over 50 by that point, and you only see them once per year. With the average life expectancy of only around 80 years, you may only see your loved ones 30 more times until they die. Again, realizing these facts can make it sound very morbid, but I want you to reframe that and really appreciate the time you actually have spent with your family. I once had a friend tell me that you shouldn't measure your time spent with family in the years ahead, but actually the amount of time that you will see them. So, again, if you see them once or twice per year, you may only get 30 to 60 more moments with them in this life. And the third key takeaway is even if you see your family, the amount of hours is still significantly lower after 20. Prioritize and cherish every moment. To say it again, after each one of these sections, I want to give a possible response to how you can actually lean into the actionable positive steps that these graphs get to tell us. You can take this data as morbid and existential and horrible, or you can lean into the eye opening aspect of the graph, allowing us to be appreciative and grateful of the moments we spend with our family. A possible response could be call or go visit your parents or siblings this week for no reason at all other than to just talk to them and hear their voice. The next category we'll dissect is friends. Your time spent with friends peaks at age 18 and slowly begins to decline. When you're young, it makes sense that you spend time with more friends, whether that's in school, in sports, in the arts, etc. You're naturally inclined to hang out more with friends in these structured settings that we get as children. But as you enter adulthood, most individuals spend more time with just a few close friends rather than spending a lot of time with a lot of shallow friends. Two key takeaways from this graph is this: embrace the longevity of friendship, but also focus on the depth and meaning behind that longevity. The second key takeaway: cherish those who are with you through good times and bad. Those friends that stick around in your life's toughest times are worth keeping around. Even though the amount of time spent with friends significantly decreases after the age of 18, holding on to the friendships that matter will actually make it feel like it's worth it to continue to hang out with those friends. Because when you're in adulthood, you now have a job, you now have a family, you now have other responsibilities. So going deeper with a few friends actually makes a lot more sense than trying to continually add friends to your list. Invest your time in healthy, positive, meaningful relationships that you know are actually going to last and benefit you throughout your life. A possible response to this section would be think about the friends who you know would be there for you in the darkest hour. Reach out to them this week and let them know how much you care for them, appreciate them, and are grateful for them. The third graph we're going to look at is one with your partner. Your time spent with your partner actually trends up until right around the average life expectancy. Now, this graph was actually my favorite graph because it shows the importance of who you choose as a spouse or long term partner. This is huge because who you spend your time the most with, who you choose your partner to be, could actually play a huge role in your life's fulfillment, in your life's joy, in the way that you move and be in the world. Some key takeaways from this section are who you choose as a partner is the most important decision you'll ever make. The second key takeaway is this: find someone you genuinely enjoy spending time with and develop a deep friendship with. Jake Scott has a song called Tuesdays, and I'll link it in a card above. And that's one of my favorite songs. In that song, he sings, love's not the best days or the worst days. Love is the Tuesdays. Find someone you genuinely enjoy doing nothing with on a random Tuesday. Remember, you only get one life. Never settle for anything less than genuine love. A possible response to this could be practice intentional gratitude with your partner. Every day, seek to tell them or show them how much they mean to you. Your behavior will trump feelings at first, then your feelings will fall in line. This new habit will positively change your relationship with your partner. And even if you're not married or have a significant other yet, you can still begin to practice this intentional gratitude with friends, with family, getting into the habit of doing kind and genuine things, even when you do not feel like it. The fourth graph we'll look at, and probably the one that hit my heartstrings the most, is the one of time spent with children. Time spent with children peaks in your 30s and declines steadily thereafter. This graph got me. It made me tear up. It made my heart sink. It made me have to sit and actually reflect on what this actually meant. I have two little ones right now. My son is just over 3 and my daughter is about to turn 2. And the weight of this graph just sat with me because I couldn't imagine having spent so much time with them and then letting them go out into the world. And I know that so many other parents deal with this and they do it over and over. But when they're this young and you spend so much present time with them, it can feel so defeating to know that one day they're going to leave. The phrase, they will never be this young again, plays over and over in my head when I see this graph. And if you're a parent, I want you to hear this is that you work and 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 you work to get more and more. And work in and of itself is not inherently wrong. But when that work is continuing to affect the way your children view you and experience you, that's when you know you're working too much. And at what cost is all of that work being paid? At what point does all of that work make you miss moments that you'll never get back? There's a story that I heard once of a dad who continually went to work all the time. He was at work 12, 14-hour days. He would leave for weekends. He would be gone weeks at a time. And he came home one night to his daughter. And his daughter asked, Daddy, how much do people pay to have you work for them? He said, Honey, the money doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about that stuff. And she said, I know, but I'm just curious. I want to know. And he said, $100. A week later, the dad goes on a trip and he comes back. And the daughter asked him to come into her room again. And out from under her pillow, she pulls out a $50 bill. She hands it to her dad. And the dad is confused. He says, what is this $50 for? And she says, well, last week you told me that people pay you $100 for an hour of your time. And I was hoping that by giving you $50, I could get 30 minutes with my daddy. And I feel that story and it crushes me. And that story reminds me that we're not always working for money, but we're working for moments of impact. And ultimately, the biggest impact we can have is on our children. Some key takeaways from this graph are the days are long and the years are short. But these magic years of your kids being younger and with you all the time will fly by you if you let them. And the second takeaway, be present in every single moment. Slow down and embrace that sweetness that children bring into your life. A possible response could be, if you have children, spend 30 minutes each day this week, fully immersed in time with them. No phones, no screens, no distractions. Ask questions, listen to them, play with them, and laugh with them. Children only know the present. Embrace and lean into that with them. The fifth graph we'll look at is coworkers. Time spent with coworkers is steady throughout your prime years, typically between the ages of 20 and 60 years. After that, after the 60th year, it declines rather sharply, mostly due to retirement. Work will pull you away from your family and your children more than anything else. And I want to point out that it will, but there's also the gap of you get to choose what your work is. As an entrepreneur and content creator myself, I'm doing this because I have a message to tell and I want to impact people. But I'm also doing this because it allows me to spend more time with my family and have a choice in how much I actually get to see them and how much they're a part of what I do. Now, you may not have that choice currently, but if you create a vision of having that choice, you can actually move forward and seeing that in a year or 2 years from now. Some key takeaways from this point are you'll spend a lot of time at work or working somewhere. The second point goes off the first one. Who and where you choose to work can be an important decision, but I believe what you work on and how you work is the most important choice. If you have the luxury of choice, I encourage you to choose work and coworkers that inspire you and that you find meaningful and impactful. Aim to have coworkers who actually bring the energy into your life, not just suck it away. A possible response to this could be ask yourself a few critical questions about your work and those who you work with. Is what you're working on fulfilling and meaningful? Do you gain energy from being around your workplace? Do they push you to grow intellectually, spiritually, or physically? Are you happy spending such an outsized amount of time in your life with these people and this work that you're working on? Just sitting with those questions fundamentally changed my life. And I hope that you'll take the time to pause and actually spend time on those as well. The sixth and final graph we will look at is time spent alone. Time spent alone steadily increases throughout your entire lifespan. It is a fact that you are actually the only person that you live with for your entire life. So I would pose the challenge to not lose the respect of yourself. I think this graph is really important, and it's telling for how important the formative years of your life are. When you're young, you learn to fill your time with toys and games and whatever your parents give you. But as you get older, these habits serve you in groups and in friendships, but not actually when you're alone. And since we already know that time spent with family and friends decreases, who are you actually playing with? With new data coming out, we're seeing a shift in this just based on the accessibility that video games and telecommunication gives us with other people. So, with this data only being up until 2019, I imagine that some of this has changed. However, the physical reality of being alone is still the same, if not even more decreased. So, one thing that we can take away from this, even before we get to the key takeaways, is cherish time by yourself. And that's not just time doing something, but time being quiet, time being bored, time just going for a walk and sitting with your thoughts and feelings. Or you can be alone and work on self improvement, getting better at a skill or getting more knowledge that you've always wanted to learn. Some key takeaways are learn to embrace solitude and flex those boredom muscles regularly. Find happiness and joy in the time by yourself because chances are, as you get older, you're going to get a lot of it. A possible response to this last graph could be spend 10 to 15 minutes each day being bored. No technology, no books or reading, no interactions socially. Go for a walk, sit in a room, do whatever you feel like you want to do. Make sure to flex your boredom and solitude each day and see where it goes. Get comfortable with yourself. And I want to point out that this is the basis of meditation sitting with your thoughts, sitting with your feelings, sitting with your mind and your body all in one in solitude. And if you want, you can go to the search bar above me and search YouTube on all the benefits of meditation and even some guided practices from other people who know probably a lot more than I do. So let's put it all together. Shrinking all of these graphs and lessons into 6 core and key takeaways, they'll look like this. Family time is limited, cherish it. Friend time is limited, so prioritize the real ones. Partner time is significant, choose wisely. Children time is precious, be present. Coworker time is significant, find meaning. Alone time is abundant, seek to understand yourself. This is an important topic because time is something we all move through and something we cannot control. While I wish I could go back in time or jump to the future to change events or see what could happen, we simply cannot. Maybe in the future, someone's going to invent technology where we can travel back in time or see in the future. But right now, we don't have access to that technology. So I'd love to hear from you in the comments, or you can message me. What did you think of the graphs? How do you currently spend your time? And what conversations might this spark with your family, friends, children, loved ones, etc.? Go ahead and subscribe to the channel so you can support me and I can create more videos like this. You can also head over to keeganyork.com and book a consultation call with me, and we can go over how I can best help you in your individual life, whether that's growth, self improvement, or wanting to process things that you may have never processed before. But until the next video, you only get one life, so you might as well make some meaning with it. See you guys later.